Welcome everyone to our STC FTC meeting. My name is Bethany Aguad. I am the STC Florida chapter president. This is Finding Your Path, Navigating Freelance Contract and Permanent Technical Communication Roles. I want to put lots of words in the title so I could practice my breath support while going into this presentation. So thanks for bearing with me. So we just had what was going to be our networking time. I hope that you all have shared and bonded through our troubleshooting of our technology, and for those who are in the room, the sandwiches. Otherwise, thank you for coming. Glad to get to see you. And just gonna go over a quick welcome, announcements, a little bit of introduction, and then our panelists have some short presentations and we'll go into Q&A. Wrong mouse. So from STC Florida, we are the Florida chapter of the Society for Technical Communication. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I've been president for, oh no, I should know how many years. It was the pandemic, so I struggled with time, several years. And ever since I was in FTC here at UCF, which is the Future Technical Communicator Student Club, I've really enjoyed having this event every year. So it's great to be back in person after several years away, even if we had some technical snafus. It's great to be here and there for everyone, since we have folks joining us from near and far. And the correct mouse. So for those who don't know about STC, or the Society for Technical Communication, bear with me while we say STC and FTC a lot. No, hold on a second. We're getting lovely. I moved the mouse. Sorry, in the room they were getting news from the Windows toolbar. So STC is the world's largest and oldest professional society dedicated to technical communication. So we have members who are students, academics, practitioners, all across the globe. There are geographic chapters, which is what STC Florida is, representing special areas like Florida, which we feel is very unique to us, but we welcome people from beyond Florida so that we can hear about their weather and, you know, enjoy getting to know them. But there's also special interest groups. So if you're interested in something like technical editing or Agile, there are groups that you can join for those interests too. The Florida chapter was formed in 1977, dedicated originally to the needs of Orlando and Central Florida, but then we grew beyond that. We've always been really proud of our ties to UCF, especially the FTC student group. We have monthly educational chapter meetings, and we also do networking. So if you enjoyed, well, we'll say from the point I started this presentation going forward, we would love to see you at future events. And we're just happy to share information, get to know each other, network, and help people be successful in their careers. I talk a little about the benefits of STC membership. Membership is open for 2024. So if you're an STC member and you haven't renewed, it's a great time to do so. Or if you thought about joining professional society, we'd love to have you join STC, and especially the Florida chapter. So there's honors you're eligible for at the international level, networking, there's a job bank, discounts on certification, webinars, there's a lot of educational offerings from STC at large, and publications, including technical communication and intercom. For us, we have our mentoring and leadership development programs. So we have, I think, quite a few people who have been through mentoring on one or both sides. We have some mentors and mentees. And that's been a great way for us to grow as individuals and in the profession. We also have reduced meeting fees. This is one of our free events, but we do have meeting fees for most of our educational programs. We have volunteering opportunities. I promise that those are entirely voluntary. So I first started when I was just asked, do you want to run a mentoring program with me by my future mentor at that point, Dan Voss, and I said, sure, having no idea what I was committing to, but I'm so glad I said yes. I think I should have said no. I didn't know what the future held. No. Lots of presentations later and papers written. But it's been a real part of my personal and professional development. I'm really grateful for STC and the Florida chapter. And it's great for us to get to network with folks. So in here, in the room, when we have that, or in the Zoom room, I'm glad to get to chat with people. So just want to mention that a little bit. I mentioned growing with STC Florida. So for those who are students, many of us in the chapter started as students at UCF. We are reflecting now on how old we are, especially those of us who are coming back to campus for one of the first times in over a decade. But getting to join originally for the mentoring program, that's something we really recommend for people who are in the field or new grads or in transition for careers. We usually start that program every fall, but if it's something you'd be interested in, we're always have people who are willing to kind of step in and mentor as we go through the year. We also have that leadership development programs for people who especially been through our mentoring program or who are just looking to learn more about specifically being a chapter leader. get paired with someone to learn and grow. I was hoping John Clement would be on so I could put him on the spot to vouch for that program, but you'll have to take my word for it that John found it very helpful since he's not here to say so himself. I'm sure that's exactly what he would have said. We also have our administrative council meetings. So if you're looking to understand how we do chapter business or just want to volunteer on a committee, we have those meetings. They're open to everyone. And I'm just gonna say, and more, which Rachel recommended when we were students, being the best way to end any sort of offering was just to say, we have all these things and more, so that you could decide what that might include. So a couple things, monthly meetings are on Zoom. Anyone is welcome to join. I think I have an upcoming slide where I mentioned what our programs are going to be. Students are always welcome to attend for free. We also have volunteer roles, as I mentioned. I know I saw Julia was on the call. So I might put her on the spot in a minute to talk about memo to members, but again, a reminder to sign up for STC membership if you're interested, or let us know if you have any questions. I have a little mention here of the STC Summit, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. And did want to mention we have employment opportunities through our chapter, and also we have an employment panel that we host every year that'll be coming up in a couple of months. So Julia, can I put you on the spot for a moment to say something about memo to members?
Sure. Memo to members is our chapter newsletter. I'll have the link for you in the chat in just a moment. If you would like to write anything or be published, I am very open to publishing anything you write. I'm a very gentle editor. If you send it to me and it makes sense, and it's even just vaguely about TechCom, I'm going to publish it, and you'll be able to put that on your resume. And if you don't know what to write, I've got an ideas page for you. You can have a look, see if one of my ideas sparks an interest, or alternatively gives you an idea that you want to write about. Shoot me an email and I will absolutely publish your work.
Thank you, Julia.
Hey, Julia, quick question.
Sure.
That's so good.
If
What
I,
else-
if
what else-
I,
What else was up? You talking to me?
no.
What else?
If I've written something on like a blog, could that be like republished?
This is where we
Yes,
Sure.
that's true.
You just have to give me the link and make sure that if it's not your own blog, you get permission from whoever's in charge so that I can republish it with, of course, an appropriate link.
Equals 9.
Okay, I'm gonna send you something.
Excellent, Riley.
Bethany, can I say something?
Sure, absolutely.
I thought maybe Chantal can say something tonight too.
She does. She has some upcoming slides.
I didn't know that. Okay. So,
All right, I'll have her throw it to you right after her slides. How's that sound?
okay.
Perfect. Okay. Just a couple more things to highlight. So for February, we're planning an Adobe InDesign tutorial. March is that employment panel I talked about. For April, we have an AI ChatGPT, like large language model presentation, which will be, of course, entirely different in April than it would be now because all of that is constantly changing. We're looking at DITA in May, and then in June, we just have an end of year social, which will be in person this year. So I'm very excited about that. Just a quick note, if you are looking for a job or have a job you want to fill, I wanted to highlight that Nicole Lindquist is our employment chair. She posts jobs all the time on LinkedIn. So I would recommend following her, connecting with her. She is a wonderful person to, kind of help direct you for some great resources. So just want to make sure to highlight that Nicole is, a wonderful member of our administrative council. All right, STC Summit. Hopefully this audio is going to be kind to us. But we have a quick video from STC promoting the summit in May. And I just wanted to highlight that our own Alex Garcia didn't know that he's STC famous and made it to the very beginning of the promotional video. Yeah. This should go on your LinkedIn. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can play this successfully. Bear with me. Well, it's silent. That's okay. Oh, did you mute it? We muted one of the devices, so. Okay. Oh, it's playing again. All right, so just a quick thing about the STC Summit. That's the International TechCom Summit, so conference is taking place in Minneapolis this year, May 17th through 19th. I have not gone to go every year, but every year I have gone to the STC Summit. I really enjoyed learning, getting to see all the different sessions. This year, it's really about having very hands-on practical experience. So recommend if you just want to be around your fellow technical writers, it's great to meet people from all around the world. They do have reservations over the hotel, so I think we'll make sure we get that information in the chat, but if it's something you'd like to do, please consider going. So now, Chantal, I will switch places with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chantal Syrier. I am the president for FTC. We're very glad that we got to partner with STC Florida again for another STC FTC joint meeting, and the first one in 4 years that's hybrid. So just a little about FTC. FTC stands for Future Technical Communicators. We're a registered RSO on the UCF campus. So we have FTC meetings. These include guest speaker presentations, Q&As, workshops, discussions, and also socials. Our meetings are always free, open to all. They are held primarily on Zoom, but we are expanding our hybrid meeting offerings. So that is also something we've started to do this year. Our next one is February 6th at 6:30. We will have a resume interview workshop. We also have leadership and volunteering opportunities throughout the year. But the biggest thing at the moment is we are looking for new student leaders for the next school year. Leadership is amazing in so many different ways. I definitely have enjoyed my time as an FTC leader. It helps with your portfolio, learning tech comm skills, just general leadership and interpersonal skills, but also it's just a great time. So if you think you may be interested in that, you can always email us at ucf.ftc@gmail.com. Jobs and internships. We do share job opportunities with our members, including internships, entry-level jobs, that sort of thing. We do have connections with some companies around Central Florida. We post those primarily through our Discord, but also on LinkedIn and other channels. And then the STC Summit. Every year we go to attend the summit. We're very excited for it. This year it's in Minneapolis, as Bethany said. And so very much looking forward to it. We do have a big group this year who wants to go, which is great, but that also means we need to really pay attention to fundraising. So if you are interested in supporting us, we would appreciate it. We will have some fundraisers soon, so if you would like to look out for that. And then just in general, if you would like to connect with us, there's the link tree in the on the slide. I can get that in the chat in a second. And yeah, we would love to connect with you. That's what we're here for, to augment your tech comm skills and give you the connections and knowledge that you need.
Okay. And JD, I think you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to, I didn't know that Chantal was on the program tonight, and I just wanted her to be able to say something about FTC. So
Absolutely, great. Well, glad you're here. Happy to have you every year at our joint event. It's a time-honored tradition. Okay, so just a quick thing about TechCom roles. I know we kind of came up with these arbitrary categories of freelance, contract, and permanent. I know not everything fits in those boxes, but just kind of want to say like what I thought was the way I was approaching this for finding our panelists and forming questions. For freelance, it's self-employed people who are working on often short-term projects with various clients. For permanent, that's more what I think you picture, someone who has a long-term position with a single employer, either salary or hourly, depends on the corporation. And then we have contract, that's sort of this interesting hybrid. So people can work for a single project for a client, sometimes for a long time, and that might be through like a staffing firm, which is not that uncommon, I think, especially in Central Florida, people who are working in technology. So just want to set some expectations there. And without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. They're going to tell you all about themselves, but just want to say welcome to Kelly, who I hope you can see on the screen. Yes, you can see Kelly. I'm saying applause, applause, applause. We'll try not to overwhelm you with applause. And Jessica. Mirhonda, here in the room. And Rachel. So we're doing very polite golf claps, so hopefully that's not too intrusive. We weren't sure what the echo situation would be like. I'm not going to attempt fade again. So they each got a little bit to tell you for a little short presentation, and then we'll be going into Q&A. So start thinking about your questions, or you can throw them in the chat. Julia is great at keeping track of those, so we would pick those up later if you have something that comes up along the way. So Kelly, are you ready to go?
Sure, it's kind of a, when you get to so what are the highlights? What have I done? How have I gotten here? It's kind of a lot to go through. But my first job in the field was as an editor for a training company. I started out as a contractor, like you were saying, there was a staffing company looking for somebody, and I came in. I was full-time, but getting paid through the staffing company. And then eventually I was hired full-time. And that was interesting because I didn't know what a technical editor was at the time. I was an English major and I had minors in creative writing and women's studies. So it was really, I didn't know what I was going to do with that. And so that kind of started me down the path of being a technical editor and eventually a technical editor and a writer. But with that job, I was editing the work of SMEs, or what they call developers, and they were delivering training to steel mill operators. Probably not what most of you were preparing for in your technical communication schooling. You really just don't know what you're going to find out there. So some of my work experience highlights, this is not everything, but before I had the training editor job, I was a writer and editor for the Women's Source Catalog and Review, which is kind of a women's studies kind of thing. That was a lot of fun. I was published with that, but that was back in 1993, so you probably won't find it anywhere, but that was really a defining moment for me. I also wrote personality profiles for like a HR type company. And that was interesting for me because they had different profiles based on the type of work that you would be good for. So most of us in the room are probably 2, 4, 6, 8s is how we were talking about ourselves. And that means we're detail oriented. We like to focus on things. We're very quiet, don't want to get out there. And the 1, 3, 5, 7s were usually the people I recommended for sales jobs. So that was kind of an interesting start in my career of learning about where should I be in the world. I worked in marketing, even though it was technical marketing or technical products. The first one at Verifone, which you've probably seen the terminals around. This was back when I was living in Tampa, Clearwater. So they make those payment terminals, and I was working in marketing for that. And then I went to Nextech, which is a company that makes chemical detection devices. So that was a lot of fun being the documentation manager over there. And then I kind of made a switch over to the pharma world, and I became a medical editor for a company called Med Communications. And I was at AstraZeneca for them for, 8 years. Sometimes I was an employee, sometimes I was contract, sometimes I was freelance. I did a lot of different things with them. And then some of my tech writer jobs, I was worked in security for AXA up here in Syracuse. And another interesting job was being an IT technical writer for Gould Pumps, which is like these big manufacturing kind of I went back to AstraZeneca for a while. It was a co-lead for a medical channel work stream, which was like a really strategic kind of website job, which is very strange. And I was a freelancer for that. And so that's just kind of all over the place, with my career, just kind of following where my network and where my location and the jobs available took me. So as a copy editor for ISC Squared, that was those are the people who certifications. So I could print.
Kelly, I think you might be muted.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know how that happened. Sorry.
I will forgive you.
Okay. Yeah.
You're muted, you're muted again.
Again.
Is it a space bar?
Okay. I'm gonna stop touching anything.
Just give the rest like this.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good right now.
Okay. I'm just not gonna touch anything. Sorry. I think I was like fiddling and I might have been like, touching things. So anyway, so the ISC Squared was an interesting freelance job, getting to edit the materials for cybersecurity certification. So I had a lot of fun with that one. And I'm also a copy editor for a magazine called Pharmaceutical Engineering, which combines all this pharma stuff with all this IT stuff. It's a very strange synergy of my skills in one kind of freelance, role. And then lastly is where I am now. I'm full-time again as an editor. And it's funny, they just call me editor, but I'm a medical editor and I work at Aquin Studios, and my client this time is Merck, so big pharma clients. So it's kind of a long time coming, a lot of different things that I've done, but those are kind of the highlights. So what are my favorite STC experiences? I would say co-chairing Spectrum. That was probably like a professional highlight for me. If you don't know Spectrum, that's the STC Rochester chapter conference. They don't have them in person anymore, but at the time I did it for 2 years, and it was in person and it was a lot of work, but it was really, really good. And if you haven't noticed how excited I get when we talk about Summit, it's because I'm the co-chair for Summit this year. So I'm really excited about that and seeing what kind of cool proposals we get. And I'm so excited to see all these FTC students come in. I remember having breakfast with Chantel at the last conference. So it's to me, that's the conferences to me are really a highlight of my STC experiences. So you want to speak and when I'm in the background and making things happen. And you can see me in the picture there. That was me up there with Bobby Werner. If you don't know her, she's the treasurer right now of the STC board. And then fun fact about myself, I used to play roller derby. And I still love to skate, and you can see me here in this picture many years ago.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it comes out every so often. If you get the right people around, they'll reveal that about me at STC functions just because they think it's fun. So this slide was kind of, prepared for us, and I thought, well, just answer this as I can. In the way that I have taken on some of these roles, I jump back and forth between the different types. But if I want something short term, like it's not something I want to commit to, a lot of times a contract is good. Like if I'm in between in life, or if I'm at one point I was trying to get out of a full-time role and I took a contract role just to give me a good reason to go do something different. A lot of times I'll take a permanent full-time job because I need the benefits, or because I want that, either in-house experience or just whatever that experience is. And freelance is for projects. Even though I'm working full-time,
Oh, sorry, your audio's breaking up for us. Can you guys hear Kelly, or is that just on our end? Sorry, Kelly, if you mind repeating just the last bit about freelance, it just cut out a little bit.
Okay, so just
Oh, okay. I don't know if maybe it's your microphone. The joys of working on Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you fine right now. No, it was maybe it's actually just maybe something's interfering with the wireless headset. Could that be it? Maybe if it's, I don't know if you want to switch microphones, if you could use one in the laptop or something.
Connected right to it. That's why I do the one with a.
Well, it seems to come and go. It was working great.
I know.
Well, now I hear you. So let's give it another shot.
Okay. So career development and growth, I would just say attend conferences, programs like these, webinars, on topics that really, yes, that have to do with what you do, but then also just take some that you don't know, things you don't know what they're about, because you never know when you might need some information that you're going to learn at a conference or at a webinar that you didn't even know about. So balancing work and life, to me, like I try to get to yoga. I try, when I was at roller derby, that was sitting in at a desk all day. In the homes that I've had, I try to have a separate home office so I can have that separation from work and home, relaxation and work. Take breaks, which is I don't do that enough. So do as I say, not as I do. And just read for fun, like I feel like for a long time I was reading so much at work that I stopped reading for fun, and I've started doing it again, and I'm like, what? You love this. Why did you stop doing it? So just as a way to balance life, like that's some of my advice there. Advice for technical communicators. I always take on side gigs at work and learn whatever I can about different parts of the company, about different, different things that don't necessarily have anything to do with my day to day. And volunteer opportunities with STC. That's going to help you learn. That's going to help you grow. It's going to build your network. I've had some jobs come about because of things that I've learned as a volunteer. So you never know what is going to spark what in your life. Industry trends. I know it's all about AI, but I think we're always going to need eagle eyes to clean up the messes that AI is leaving behind when it's hallucinating and everything else. And you always need good communicators. I don't think the AI is as diplomatic as it thinks it is so far. Like I don't know. I'm not convinced our jobs are going anywhere. And I've been at this for a long time. So
Thank you, Kelly, and thanks for bearing with us with the audio.
yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what that is, but I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries at all. We've got Jessica up next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to the STC Florida chapter and to the Future Technical Communicators Club at UCF for hosting this presentation and inviting me to participate. Hi to Kelly, who I've known through the STC for many years. I'm really happy to see her and the other STC members. My name is Jessica Kreger, and I began my career as a technical writing intern for Concurrent Technologies Corporation and a production assistant intern for NBC during college. I also served as a tutor for both the Center for Excellence in Writing and the Adult Basic Literacy Center at Pennsylvania State University, where I graduated with a BA in English, like Kelly, and I'm sure many others here today. Continuing my writing education, I earned an MA in professional writing from Carnegie Mellon University while interning for Alcoa, where I was hired as an HR Communications Technology Associate upon graduation. Thereafter, I returned to Carnegie Mellon University to work as a principal multimedia designer for the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Then I moved from sunny Pennsylvania to even sunnier Florida, where I worked then as a manager and was promoted to Director of Research Communications for the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. I was subsequently hired as a technical writer, senior analyst for Dell to develop software documentation. Next, I was recruited to TradeStation, an online brokerage, where I served as a technical documentation leader and was promoted to senior manager, client training and education, and then moved into marketing as a senior manager of technical content. So like Kelly, I worked in marketing, in technical communications, and really have gone in between many different departments during my career. Most recently, I worked in content marketing as a content marketing director for Calvin AI and Bitcoin IRA. A common thread through my career is that I'm mission driven. This means I'm passionate about creating content that can improve people's lives, whether it be through education, academic medicine, technology, or financial products. Another thread woven throughout my career, as many of my colleagues here, is the STC. I've been an STC member for 23 consecutive years, and I've attended at least 10 national summits and delivered cross-disciplinary presentations at many of them. 3 of my favorite summits included trips to Disney, the DC area, and a hike near Denver. Some fun facts about me are that I wrote a novel for fun, and I enjoy sharing my knowledge through conference proceedings, meetings, interviews, and columns. And now I mentor an UCF technical communication student through the STC Florida chapter. Go Leela. Next, next slide, please. So my career has spanned more than 2 decades, and I'm proud to have led communications teams that educate and empower people across the world. With experience in diverse sectors, I've worked in academia and industry for leading employers, bridging the gap between technical communications and marketing communications. Most of my jobs have been full-time, leading to an array of new skills and experiences as I've held roles in companies of all sizes, from multinational corporations to startups. A couple of my positions started as contract and turned into full-time, and I've also worked on freelance and volunteer projects on the side. In terms of work-life balance, I like the phrase, it's a marathon, not a sprint, because we all need to work at a pace that's not only ambitious, but also manageable for the long run. We all need to be flexible in today's world where layoffs are prevalent, so we can pivot to new opportunities adjacent to the field. As Kelly mentioned, artificial intelligence is here, and outsourcing is also a growing trend. So you'll need to know how to use AI to your advantage and work with people across the globe, whether you're in a full-time capacity, you're contracting, or you're working with contractors who may be outsourcing. As a technical communications professional, it's extremely important to be able to brand yourself and to define the value that you bring to any organization that you're in. So I encourage you to be open to learning about different industries, other fields in communications, and new ways you can use your skills to make a difference in your companies and also in your communities. Increasing and broadening your skills, as Kelly says, taking on new roles in your company, also taking new roles in the community and the STC and volunteering. This will add to your human intelligence and set you apart from the AI and other people in the field. This can be helpful in any market, and the ability to pivot and to reinvent yourself during your career is a valuable lesson and life skill that I've learned. Thank you for listening to my career journey so far. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have when we have our Q&A, and please feel free to continue the conversation with me on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Jessica. Up next, we have Mirhonda. I'll make sure you can hear her because I know you're kind of soft-spoken sometimes.
Oh, I won't be today. don't worry.
Perfect, yes.
Hello, everyone. Very glad to be here this evening. My name is Mirhonda Studevant, and I really appreciate a lot of things. I'm going to try to kind of speak about myself and not to replicate all of the great information that Kelly and Jessica have already shared. So a little bit about me. I have officially been in the profession for 29 years, but to the points that were made earlier, internships. So it's been 29 years since I received earned my undergraduate degree, but even ahead of that, I highly recommend interning because that gives you that exposure very early on. So we've already heard it a few times, but that is something that I did as well. My first job after graduation was working as an instructional designer for a company called Rock International that did software for airplanes. So that was my very first job, was working on their training documents and creating all of the materials that they use to train people on their software. It was exciting, but it was also pretty grueling. I was a scrub and the low person on the totem pole. So I literally remember working all night long, like as I stepped on the elevator, people were coming off with like their coffee and stuff like that. But that's part of that paying your dues thing. But that gets onto the balance part, which is on the next slide. Some of the highlights, basically the way that I started, or how I found out about technical communication, is I started in my undergraduate life as an industrial engineering major. I've been working since I was 14. I was always the person that said, why don't they do it this way? It would be so much better if they did blah, blah, blah. So I found out that that's what IEs did. So that was my major. And when I was co-opting as an IE, I learned that all of my engineering expertise and time and motion studies didn't really mean a lot if I couldn't translate all of the engineering ease to useful information for other audiences that were not engineers. And I found out there were these people called technical writers, and they were the ones that would actually translate all of the specs and engineering speak into something that was useful for other groups. So much to my parents' delight, I'm very sure, I changed my major as a rising senior because where I went to school, which was Southern Polytechnic State University, was just launching a bachelor's program in technical and professional communication. So I received and that may be part of that fun fact, is that I received the first degree that Southern Tech awarded in that field as far as a bachelor's degree. So the reason I have dinosaur down there is because every once in a while, they'll dig me out because I am the very first graduate and people are like, wow, she's still alive, she's still around. So that's kind of the fun fact part. As far as my highlights, I've gone between having freelance, contract, and permanent roles. There are really pros and cons to each one. I think of contract or freelance gives you an opportunity, and I did have my own company for a while where I was going in and doing exactly what you do as freelance, but the pro is that you make a lot of money because it's all you, right? The con is it's all you. So that means that no matter how much you're working, you have to constantly be preoccupied about getting additional business. So you have to market yourself, you're your own administrative support. It is a lot in addition to whatever you're doing during the day. You have to just be perpetually working. As far as contracting, that is a mixed bag. It really depends on what contracting firm you go through. The pros with that is, again, it depends. Sometimes you'll have some level of benefits, but I like contracting sort of for some of the reasons that Kelly was saying. It gives you a chance. It's like trying on shoes or clothes. Like it gives you an opportunity to be exposed to an organization, to see how it's run from the inside, to see how they map to what their actual image is. And then in a lot of cases, you can usually convert, or a lot of times it gives you that chance to see. It's like dating. Like, do you like each other? Is it going to be a match? Like, you're able to see how you like it, and you may receive an offer. So some contracts become contract to permanent jobs. But if you are dealing or working through a consulting or contracting firm, you have to be really careful because there may be non-compete agreements or something like that, which basically, even if the company is interested in you, they still have to go through that contracting firm. And there may be basically the equivalent of a finder's fee for them to transition you over to permanent. So it's just a little bit more nuanced in terms of that. The advantage of being in a permanent role is that you're able to see the progression and the growth of the department, of the group itself, and you can feel pretty good about the ways that you contribute. When you are a contractor, that is just what you were doing. You were there for that job, and you may or may not be able to influence, even if someone is doing something you deeply disagree with. That is not your role. Let me stay in my lane. Like, I am here for this. So you have to really sort of train yourself for that. On the other hand, there may be organizations that see all of the other skills that you have. And even though you were paid to, create a salad and you were supposed to be the person that's salad making, they say, oh, well, you're really good at this. Like, why don't you make me a steak? Why don't you do an entree? And it's like, wait a minute. Now, I was hired to do salads. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and renegotiate that SOW, that statement of work, because what you want to be sure is that you are paid for what you are actually doing. And that really kind of works across the board. As far as highlights, because I've had a lot of different roles, but I have Ceridian listed because that is where I had an internship and returned at 2 other points in my career. They do HR payroll software. They're a competitor with ADP. They merged with another company that's based out of Canada. But I listed that because if you leave somewhere well and you maintain those relationships, it is possible to boomerang and return. So that's why I listed that. I have chicken listed. That is a highlight because I did work for for the corporate headquarters of Popeyes. And that was fun because every now and then you'd get an email from the test kitchen begging for you to come and test something that they were working on. Oh, if I must, let me go and taste this chicken for the good of the organization. I also have Git listed because that was reflecting when I was and that was a contract to permanent job. I worked at GitHub, and that was the most technical writing job that I had because Git uses Git to create the Git documentation. So I had to get up to speed very quickly. There were things like liquid syntax and markdown, things that I had not been exposed to previously. And it was really exciting because the learning curve was steep, but it was also really enjoyable. And it was a very supportive environment. As far as Glint, I have that listed as a highlight. Glint is an employee engagement company, and that's fun because they walk the talk. So when they talk about having a really good environment and being somewhere where you're appreciated and where you have a lot of transparency, that really has been probably the best experience I had in terms of the business environment and just being entrusted to just do what I do, like not having to do a lot of evangelizing or advocating, but actually being able to just focus on the work. So that's why I have that listed. For STC experience, similarly, I've been involved in STC for a very long time. Actually, before I graduated, professors, back when they could do this and it wasn't a liability, would give me rides to the STC meetings. And it was wonderful because this is a safe place. These are your people. They understand, like you have that. And it was wonderful to be in a room full of people who were already doing what I was so deeply interested in doing and just changing my major and the whole nine. So I think, so that's why I have just one. But I think my very first meeting or conference, because I had been following a lot of the STC periodicals and reading articles from people, then when you go to the summit, they're there in 3D, in real life. You can meet them. They are approachable. They don't snub you. And you can speak about all of the different things that are interesting. You can catch them at lunch. Like, that's the thing, is just having that exposure. Also, current, sort of similarly to what Kelly was speaking about with her conference, that was something that I also enjoyed. Currents was the STC Atlanta. I lived in Georgia most of my life and moved to Florida about 7 years ago. So being part of the Currents Conference is also one of my favorite experiences, which brings us to Peaching and the cemetery. So Peaching is when the STC Atlanta chapter, not this last year, but previously hosted the STC Summit. And one of our members, the president at the time, did dress up as a peach. That was part of the hospitality thing. And the cemetery is one of the socials that we did. It sounds scary, but I'm telling you, for technical communicators, cemeteries are actually pretty cool. Like the epitaphs. So in Atlanta, there's the Oakland Cemetery. There were a lot of famous people buried there. So it was really interesting to see like the tributes, to read things, to understand. And even now, like historically, I'm just very interested in that. Like I'm a believer, so cemeteries don't scare me, but it's one of the things that I really enjoy. And I don't think that I could have gone and done that with anybody else, you know, like, hey, let's go and check out, you know, a cemetery, you know, for fun. So that's one of my favorite experiences. And then the other fun fact, I told you the dinosaur thing, but my favorite quote is from Thomas Edison, which is vision without execution is hallucination. So next slide, please. All right, so differences in the kind of roles, we kind of talked about that, so I won't repeat that. Career development and growth, I found myself moving from the tactical, you know, finish this, deliver this, create this, to things that are more strategic. So I found myself going sort of further, like earlier and earlier in that process. So whether it's software development, product development, I really wanted to be involved much earlier. Today, I am, my full title is a senior program manager of knowledge and content management. I do that for LinkedIn, so I was very glad to hear all the LinkedIn mentions, but I work on the trust and safety team. So that's the group that kicks bad actors off the platform, that reinforces the content policy. So it's very exciting and very dynamic. And that is part of why I like knowledge management, because it's that real point in time. And I know that what I'm doing and creating is really helping other people do their jobs better. My advice as far as career development also, your professional reputation, like it's very important. You have a digital reputation, you have your in-person reputation, but performance, image, and exposure, it's really important to guard how you interact, how you cultivate relationships, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. The other part is balancing work and life. I have the word harmony because when I hear balance, to me, it summons like a mental picture of trying to hold everything at once. And you can't do that successfully. Something's gonna fall, something might break. So instead, what I strive for is harmony. And that's really where I'm trying to give things my focused attention at the appropriate time, recognizing that I'll have to move that around and shift my focus and attention from time to time. And the other part, as far as advice, I spoke about relationships. I have tried, because nothing beats a failure but a try. So don't be afraid to take risks, to try different things, and to really lead with curiosity. I think that the same way that we're sharing this evening, even in your workplace, there are people, and you can just set up, you know, if you can, a coffee chat or, you know, lunch virtually, in person, but just to learn more about processes, I think is always really helpful and will ultimately benefit you. The other part, I have PPOFF, which is I am positive, proactive, organized, flexible, and focused. Anytime I've been bent out of shape about something going on in a work situation, one of those things is lacking. So that's sort of my way to internally check against myself. And then the other advice I have is something I heard from a previous STC president, Susanna Laurent, who said that we should think of ourselves not as writing people, not as writing people with business skills, but business people with writing skills. There are lots of places where we can insert ourselves and really make a difference. And if we project the fact that, you were dealing with a business person and not typecast ourselves or reduce ourselves strictly to writing. Oh, that's hilarious, Scarlett. Not restrict ourselves to writing, then we really open ourselves for a lot more opportunities. So as far as AI, I agree with the previous statements that were made. Do not be scared, learn about it, because when I was coming out of school, there was this thing called the World Wide Web, and it was a brand new thing. There were maybe 2 classes that I took in it, and because I had a desktop publishing background, there was a lot of concern and trepidation and fear about what it was going to do. So with that, I just say, just embrace and learn about it and see how it can assist you. So thanks very much. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Mirhonda. And last but certainly not least, Rachel.
Hi.
Who is going to talk about her dog.
Yes, obviously, because I have nothing else to talk about after everybody has gone and given all the good information. I'm also apparently the baby of the group with only like 10 years of experience. So my first job, I actually started at Lockheed Martin as a contractor. And it was a contract to probably hire. It's kind of how it was pitched to me. I did eventually get hired and I stayed there for a couple years. And I loved it. I loved the work I did. I did not particularly care for the environment. It's one of those choose to triangle. You can like what you do, you can like the people you work with, or you can like, your pay, your manager, insert other thing here. But I'm still trying to find the right combo that I want. So I started at Lockheed Martin. I worked as a contractor. From there, I went to a bunch of places because I got hired at Connections, which got bought or merged with Optum, which then I left there, went to Carly briefly, then back to Optum, which, like you said, you can boomerang back because you said that. So I went back there, and then that got sold to Teletech. And then from there, I went to a local nonprofit, working with students and doing after-school programming, and then went back to Optum again. So it was different teams each time, but they were all tech writing positions. They were all knowledge-based administration type work, writing manuals. And then when I worked for the nonprofit, it was in the education side. I did after-school programming for homework assistance and tutoring, as well as teaching students to play D&D. Which is Dungeons and Dragons. I forget people don't know that. Because I'm a big nerd. So I helped run summer and spring break programming to teach them how to play the game, how to run it, how to set up and write their own stories and things. And then from there, I took a little break because I had a kid. And then I went back. I still have a kid. Yeah, I still have him. He's still around. He's 3.5. Mostly still around. And then I went to work at Sagent, and I'm a technical writer. Who knows what my actual title is anymore? They keep changing things. At Sagent now, and I write release notes and help manage a lot of the software and kind of the go-to person for miscellaneous team questions, I guess is the best way to put it. Thanks partially to Bethany, who got me the position and then gave me the crash course on everything that she did and then left. So I do that now. And work experience highlights. I put writing operator and maintainer manuals and doing validation and verifications. I did that way back in the day at Lockheed Martin, and I really liked it. I liked taking the manual that somebody else had written and going down with my red pen and marking it all up and going, you did this wrong. I'm that kind of person. But I also really liked writing the operator and maintainer manuals because it's very direct and straightforward. I'm given engineering drawings and I take those and I say, okay, you're gonna remove these 12 screws, you're gonna take off the faceplate, go from there. If the lights are red, push these buttons, that kind of thing. my favorite STC experience, I don't have as many as all you other fantastic panelist people. I haven't gone to a summit,
But maybe
this year. I might go this year. But I do the mentoring program, and this, I think I've had 4 mentees now, 4 or 5. I started back in the program 2011-ish, and then I now have had several mentees, and I really like just working with the students, seeing what they're doing. I've always been into kind of tutoring and education roles all through, I mean, since 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, I got sent to a kindergarten or 1st grade class and had to help kids learn to read. So I've always done stuff like that. And I still like helping people learn and find where they want to go and what they want to do. Fun fact about me, I'm a huge gamer. I play a lot of tabletop games, including, Dungeons and Dragons with Bethany and her husband and a bunch of our friends. And then I play like Old Gods of Appalachia and how many other games, Bethany?
You text me about 5 a week.
Just a few. So I really do like gaming. And then that's my puppy. So we just got her 2 weekends ago. Her name is Maeve. She's a chocolate lab. And she is adorable and very teethy. She likes to bite. But she's only 14 weeks old, so we'll give her a pass. So I think I took the slide different than everybody else.
It was an open canvas.
It was very open, and I didn't read anybody else's answers before I put mine in, so I didn't cheat. So differences in types of roles, like I've had experience going from contractor to full-time, and then going direct hire. I haven't done any freelancing, but I would say that like one of the things I noticed is going from the contracting position, and I think Mirhonda, you touched on a little bit, is with like the finder's fee and things like that. So my pay did like decrease a little bit. So that was like an interesting thing to learn. Of course, that was one of my first real jobs out of college and, in the career and everything. And then, I gained all the benefits on top of it. So I got, the paid time off and healthcare and all those important adult things that we don't think of until we're having to. And then I think I put different kinds of writing because I think, like they've said, freelance and contracting and all those, they can have a lot of similarities, but you might also get, if you're contracted to do one thing, you might just do that one thing. But if you're permanent and hired onto the team, you're going to get whatever kind of the team needs. Especially like as in the case right now with Agent, I was hired to write release notes. Bethany pitched it. You will write release notes. I now create IRDs, BDDs, I publish, I write the release notes. I help the BSAs like fix their OneDrive. So, you do whatever the team needs when you're not a contract person, because you can't as easily say, that's not my job. You can, but it doesn't fly as well. Career development and growth, tools, and more tools. That I think was the biggest thing lacking when I came out of college. I had a good idea about how to like find your topic, find your audience, write to that audience, but I had almost no knowledge of ArborText or Madcap Flare or any of the tools we used, versus other degrees, because I do have a degree in graphic design. That was all we learned. We didn't learn about finding your audience or writing that, doing that sort of stuff. We learned how to use Photoshop, how to use Illustrator. So it was very different coming out. And I remember in my interview for Lockheed Martin, they were asking me, oh, do you know how to use this? And I was like, nope, but I can learn. And they were like, okay. And, do you know how to use this? Not a clue. I don't even know what that is, but I can learn. So yeah, if you can do trials on tools, if you can watch YouTube videos, things of that nature, I highly recommend that for at least, getting started. Where am I at? Balancing work. I love working from home. As Kelly was saying, taking lots of breaks. You know, that's one thing that I think you can do it in the office, but it's not as enjoyable. And I found when I worked in the office and I took breaks, it usually was to, you know, do the bare minimum, like go to the restroom, grab a drink. Whereas at home, it's like, okay, I can take a few minutes longer, especially since I have to drive, and I can take a walk around the house. I can, you know, take the dog out. I can grab a snack. I can actually cook lunch instead of just eating sandwiches or whatever is being served in the cafeteria. So it's a really nice thing if you can be self-motivated while working at home. And then advice, I put, like they said, contracts are great for testing, for dating the companies. And industry trends, working from home, and then I've seen a lot of positions are hybrid as well, where they'll say 3 days in the office and 2 days from home, or vice versa. So I think that's a new trend that's started a lot more definitely since the pandemic, because they realize, oh, you can actually do a lot from home. Like, people are actually adults and can manage themselves and, you know, be reliable still. But a lot of companies do still want you or need you in place, especially at like Lockheed Martin, where there's hardware you have to physically look at or get pictures of, which those roles make sense. So yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right, thanks, Rachel. We've got time for Q&A. So first off, thank you to all of our panelists for sharing so much wisdom that you all have absorbed already.
So good.
Yeah, so soak in the wisdom. That's why I've established many people are here. But what questions do you guys have? Feel free to unmute if you want to ask out loud, or put your question in the chat.
We had a question on the RSVP form.
Oh yeah, you want to ask that one first, Julia, then?
How do you navigate a PT tech job with inconsistent hours in the middle of a chaotic market?
So PT, I assume meaning part-time. So how do you navigate a part-time role with inconsistent hours? I guess that's a good question.
Yeah.
Thoughts from the panelists?
I mean, when I worked for the nonprofit one, it was part-time, but they were set hours because it was run through a location. It was at a library, so I actually had set hours as far as when my program was, but the rest of it was kind of flexible. So some days I might do 3-4 hours in the morning before going to my program. Some days I did no hours before my program because I didn't need to prep anything. So I know I think it kind of depends on. That should also be noticed that that was a very small business. It was me and the owner. So I had a lot of freedom to just go, hey, I worked 4 hours this morning writing your social media plan. Here's my billing. So I think it just depends on, I guess, the role you have and what your company is expecting. With flexible hours, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was gonna say as best you can. It really depends on the situation, and then coming into whatever that role is. Setting up, I encourage you to ask questions and set expectations as early as possible, so then you don't have to go in and try to renegotiate. And I'm not sure, it's hard to answer that question because I don't know what the original agreement is. So if it was, hey, we need someone, whenever to do whatever, that's different. You don't have the same latitude as you do if they said something when you were hired and then said, kind of did a bait and switch or started changing things on you. So it really just depends on the situation. But I think that's a really great question and scenario to just see about being sure that you set those expectations up front about what that work situation looks like.
I want to add to that as well, to put things, if you can, in writing, being clear on the requirements and the deliverables that you're expected to do, so that you have a very, very clear expectations. And then also adding to that, being clear of the time that it takes you to meet those deliverables, so that you can do what is expected and needed in the time that you have, because it's only part-time.
Thank you, guys. I know we've got questions in the chat, but I see Jessica has her hand raised, so I'm gonna go to Jessica and then we'll start working through the chat questions. Because I assume she's physically raising her hand the whole time too, like in school. Where you
No, no.
other arm to support it.
I actually forgot that I'd raised my hand because I was reading your questions and thinking they were good. I just thought this would be a good question that you could all speak to. The difference between permanent and contract positions, specifically regarding what you were told in the interview and what you wound up doing. Like our contract positions, I was thinking of what you said about Bethany doing the bait and switch on you. No, just kidding. But I mean, I was wondering if contract roles are more to the point and you find that you're doing exactly what they told you were going to do in the contract role versus the full-time role. I'm just curious about that.
Well, you usually don't get pulled into a lot of team meetings and things. I mean, it's all project based. I mean, the contracts that I've had have usually been, you're here to do this. You got to get this done in the time period. And so you just don't get pulled into a lot of the team building and team meetings and, kind of, some of the politics and BS that you get, I think, when you're an employee.
Right. There's a difference between like it being dictatorial versus consultative. So when you're full-time, it's much more consultative. When you're a contract, it is far more dictatorial. And usually, in my experience, the contract is pretty close. But if you notice on a lot of job descriptions for permanent roles, there's usually sort of a vague catch-all statement that's like, and performs whatever other duties are necessary. So that is sort of their way of protecting themselves. So you can't quite have that same bait and switch attitude.
Yeah, that's what prompted my question. I noticed a lot of full-time jobs that almost every full-time job I ever got, when I showed up, I literally used a tool I told them I didn't know how to use, or like it was amazing. And I wondered if it was different in the contract world. So
it's like what I mentioned earlier when we're making slides that you should have and more. That's every job description. Exactly. It's all and more. Yep. So I'm looking through questions. I think the first we've got is from JD, which is, so how is AI influencing your work?
So we're talking about AI like it's a brand new thing. It's not that it's new, it's just that it's really hot right now and it's going mainstream. So if you think about it, over the years, there's been Grammarly and assistants. There's been AI has been around for a minute. It's just that now it's being imposed and there are lots of different ways that it's being applied. So for me right now, I have a colleague that just did a presentation and was asking, and it was a trick. He was asking a training group. He showed them an update, because like I said, we get content policy updates and changes. And he was asking how long would it take to create a learning around that? And they were like, scroll down, let's see how long it is. How deep is this policy? How far does it go? And their estimate was that it would take about a week to do an update. And inside of about 20 minutes, he was showing how he ran it through a couple of different tools and was able to take that, verbalize it, create a script, and design training around it. So I think what it does is it basically frees us up. It's kind of the way that I felt when we were converting from paper-based to the web, is it's not that the nature of or the need for communication goes away, but what it does is take some of the lower level tasks and automates them. And someone made a great point in the chat, which is that AI tends to be far more neutral in its tone. So even though you can say, I want to write to this audience, there's still the need for those nuances and to have someone to actually look at the way that that information is being presented. So even if it generates all of this content, there's still a need to consider how that's going to be received by the various audiences. And I'm sorry, anyone else on the panel? I'm not trying to hog all of the Q&A.
If you have something to say, that's great. For me personally, I know that they higher levels than me are looking at how they can have AI do some things for us. that are tedious that I wouldn't mind AI taking, quite honestly. The editing stuff, obviously, I like. The proofreading is great. But there's this, I work in a program called Viva Vault Promo Mats. And there's this anchoring that I have to do because I'm in pharmaceuticals, and you have to anchor data, the content to data to actual facts for everything that you know, for every claim that you have. And if they could do that, that would be great, because Promo Mats is not so great. It's really hard to use. So I wouldn't mind if they had AI do a little bit of that, but it hasn't trickled down to us yet. So.
All right, we got lots of questions coming in. We have, what skills do you recommend aspiring tech writers to learn, like hard or soft skills? So the field is wide open. I'm assuming beyond writing.
Both.
Maybe what skills do you guys recommend that might be missed? Things that come in handy as a tech writer.
I'm trying not to hog up everything, but this will just give people another chance to think about other ideas. I think so we're very good at written communication, but I think being able to be assertive, being clear, be just different ways to manage relationships. And then also, I see the question about learning programming languages. It really depends on what type of job you're doing. So that's part of that flexible and focus, is being open. Like I know that there's this, oh, I was an English major and I don't want to like touch code, or but things are actually, there are so many things like with object-oriented programming, which is also decades old. There are lots of ways, and like Rachel was speaking about using trial software. So there's really lots of ways that you can learn, especially hard technical skills. I think for us, because we tend to be introverts, because we tend to be perfectionists, that there are also some other skills that we need to learn just to do a better job of navigating and asserting ourselves and putting ourselves in the driver's seat where it relates to our work, and not always allowing, kind of waiting for things to come down to the pipe to be dictated to us. But how can I position myself to be more influential within the sphere of the areas where I'm working?
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit more as well. As I'm gonna use D&D as a great tool. It teaches a lot of really good, what I think are some of the soft skills that you can actually use, such as like teamwork, leadership, the verbal communication like she's talking about. I am not an introverted person. When you were talking about those 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, that means nothing. I am very extroverted. I am the person that will literally hunt down the engineer at his desk and like ambush him and ask for the information. And I know that's not common with a lot of tech writers. So it's a really good skill to have, to not be afraid to just talk to people, especially if you need information. There are times when working with other teams, they've been very difficult and kind of withhold their information, and you just want to ask why. We're on the same team. I'm developing the information that has to go to the client, based on what you're doing. Can you please just give me what I need? And they're like, oh, well, it's out there, and they give you some vague answer. You're like, no, I need you to tell me exactly where it is. Send me the link or give me the login credentials, so I can get it. Flip side to that is I have had my hand slapped a few times by managers going, hey, you're using, version E that hasn't been published yet, and your, version D is the last approved one. I'm like, yeah, but there's, a million changes between D and E. And E is technically approved, it just hasn't been published. And I'm writing to that one, so I don't have to rewrite everything. So being able to stand up for yourself, being able to have the confidence in what you're doing, or at least fake having the confidence, even if you're secretly terrified of, your manager yelling at you because you're using an unapproved version. I have not done that more than once, ever. So yeah, those are some definitely good skills that aren't taught, and you just have to learn them, or find somebody you can lean on to leverage those skills for you.
I think that's great. I want to add to that as well. And I see that Jessica Nealon wrote project management in the notes, and I want to add to that something that is related, organizational management. So learning about an organization, different roles in an organization, and how you can fit in. Also, visual communication and design. If you can take a basic course on visual verbal communication or desktop publishing, being able to know that, like, how to lay out a page, you know, white space and headings and information hierarchy on a page, that will help you a lot in technical communications. Also, kind of related is a field called information architecture. So knowing how to chunk information, how to lay it out, how to arrange it, that's really useful. And then lastly, content strategy. This is a term that, you know, I think has come into vogue in recent years, but it's always been a thing. It's just not been called content strategy. And that and that is something I think it will be really useful for you to learn how to think about the content, how to arrange the content, so that you come up with a plan and it's not just, okay, I've got to get all this out, but that you're thinking about it in a strategic way.
We have lots of questions, so I'm gonna do my best to get through them, but real quick, I know we had a couple about mentoring and the mentoring program, so I'll speak to those real quick so we can get back to the panelists. The STC Florida mentoring program is something we do every year, so we pair students, new professionals, people transitioning to the field with professionals, mostly either members of our chapter or friends of the chapter, and you do your own design mentoring plan, so we pair up based on interests, so interest for the mentee and mentor's area of expertise, and try to do some personality fit as well. And then you define what your roadmap looks like for your mentoring throughout the rest of the year. So whether that's working on projects, we often recommend things like portfolio polishing, resume reviews, sometimes mock interviews. And you know, that's something we run all the time. So I think Julia shared the link to the mentoring program on the website, but if you have questions, I will put my email and you're welcome to send me an email directly. Which is stcbethany@gmail. I've embraced STC as part of my identity, so feel free to send me an email there. I'm happy to answer any questions. Very passionate about the mentoring program. It's how I started STC. And Chantal is my mentee. Oh, sorry, you can't see her. She's here, I swear, still. So it's a great experience on the mentor side as well. So even if you're not a student, but you would like to consider mentoring, I know Jessica spoke about it already, how passionate she is for that experience. So I'll go back to your scheduled panelist questions, but thank you for asking about the mentoring program. So I think the next we had was a question about recommendations for any agencies that you've worked with, I assume for contracting.
Here in Florida, I've worked with Training Pros, and I think they are, I don't know if, I know they have offices and a pretty strong presence here. So, and then I'm trying to, the name of another one escapes me, but it's pretty big.
I'm trying to remember who I worked
Well,
with.
yeah. How about message our panelists on LinkedIn? They can give you the dirt.
Yeah, I know I know I've worked with DCR. I don't even know if they're still around. Who knows? That's who I originally worked my contract with Lockheed Martin, and then Tech Systems. I know is another one it's a larger system.
That's obvious, yeah.
Yeah.
One that I've seen around lately is Search Pros.
Search Pros. Okay. Lori Corbett, do you have your hand raised for this question or a different one?
No, this question.
All right, I'll throw it to Lori Corbett.
Okay. Start out doing contract work for another company. However, for tax purposes, get yourself a separate identification number. I think it's 99. I forget what it was. I used to have one because I was able to deduct so many expenses. Because if you're working for a company that's hiring you as a contractor and you don't have this number, you can't take those deductions, especially now that they've tightened up the deduction way. I commuted to New Jersey when I lived in Florida, and I was able to deduct all my living away from home expenses, everything. It was a wonderful thing for taxes. Now, true, I'm a financial person anyway, but it's a good tool to have.
It's a good bit of advice. We have a question specific for Jessica. Jessica, what's the title of your book?
Oh, so it's a romance novel, not anything to do with STC. It's called Fit to Love. It's not currently in available for purchase anymore, but it may be again in the future.
That's great. I would be more surprised if your romance novel was STC related. in some way.
That's what we need. You're not the only romance writer in STC. You know, we need to.
I've heard there are others. Yeah.
So we have a question from Leela. What's one thing each of you wish you would have known before graduating college that would have helped you starting your career?
But that's not really what the problems you guys have. Back when I was going, that was not a thing.
Back when I graduated college, they didn't have things called technical writers. They said, oh, any old secretary can do it. I had to tell them that was
It's
true.
just typing, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, they had them, but they didn't have degrees. You know, like and the tech writing really started in engineering.
It did.
I'm talking the 70s is when I started.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm talking before that. I'm talking the 50s.
No, yeah, the core and source is engineering, and it grew out of engineering because of those needs, because they needed someone that, and at that point, since the engineers designed it, they figured that they were the best people to describe it. But the look, everyone in the call is like, but that difference, and I saw something in the chat about that. The difference is being able to write to that particular audience, because one of the analogies I often heard is if someone has designed the car, they're going to want to tell you every little detail. And the person driving the car, do I care where the carburetor is located? No, I do not. I
How
just
it
want
works.
to drive the car. So that
I
is
want to
really
share
how it
something.
evolved.
I would like to share something. I started as a technical writer. I actually started as a typesetter using, this was the days before desktop publishing, using a tape and film. But I would correct things as they came across, and I'm like, you really know what you're doing. And that's how I moved over to editing and then on to technical writing. So it's amazing what happens in the world. Who knows what's going to
Related, no, is go back to this AI thing. And I mean, I started editing on paper. That's what we were doing. And now I never edit on paper anymore. It's always an Acrobat or Word or whatever program I'm in. This AI is going to be a similar thing. You know, there's going to be those of us who are going to go off and do what the AI does and let it help us do our work, or they're going to retire.
And kind of similarly, my first job was, my internship was at a company called the Newsletter Factory. And that's all they did was corporate publications, like programs at sporting events. So it was something very similar, you know, using different layout software so that it would print, and thinking about the different colors, because it wasn't a laser that did all your colors at once. No. It was one run for each of the four primary colors to get all of those nice glossy crisp pages and all that kind of thing. But I think that that's still sort of to an earlier point, just understanding about layout and the key principles about good design. See, those things never go out of style. It has nothing to do with whether it's something you do physically or digitally. Still having that knowledge and understanding is beneficial.
Right. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We actually only have 5 minutes left. It's flown by. It always does. So let's just, I don't want to rapid fire, sounds too dramatic. We'll try to do some quick ones. How do you destroy imposter syndrome? I wish someone would tell me. What'd you say, Kelly?
Practice.
Practice.
Make it till you make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tame that inner critic, because no one is going to be harder on you than you. So just tell yourself that you are prepared and you've got this. So yeah.
What digital tools should every technical communicator be familiar with? Recommendations?
Because I've never used FrameMaker.
Don't laugh. Microsoft Word
Soft
has a lot of
programs.
powerful features, and people only scratch the surface with that. So if you master Microsoft Word and you become the local word magician, people will come to you. They will bring you and ask you all kinds of questions because you know how to do things that they simply just don't know how to do. They haven't investigated it. Paragraph markers. Look, this is gold. These are golden nuggets, baby. Like the paragraph markers are essential because you can fix all kinds of things that drive other people crazy, and they will think you are a genius. And you just turn on the paragraph markers and like, oh, that's what's wrong.
There's 3 extra spaces.
Another good
that's
thing
what's
to-
wrong with your
another
whole
good
thing.
thing-
Yeah, stop tabbing. Stop tabbing.
Yeah, I would say additionally any kind of it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of knowledge in kind of, I'm gonna say it vaguely, Adobe products. You know, Illustrator, Photoshop,
Acrobat,
all of them, they all have very similar like hotkeys and things like that. So if you can do some things in one, you can probably do some things in the others. And some of the roles I've been in, I've had to do both writing and graphics. So that definitely helps to have a little bit of knowledge of graphic programs.
Yeah. And also don't typecast yourself. Like I was thinking about that other question about the thing I wish someone would have told me. If you know Word, then you know Lotus. If you know Lotus, you like just I'm well versed in word processing software. Don't box yourself in, or because you are more familiar with one than the other, be afraid to experiment and just know that those things translate. Just think about what the software is accomplishing, and that also will help with the imposter syndrome because you won't feel like, oh, I only know these 3 softwares. You know them across probably 9 different systems and software suites. So even if you only know 3, that's actually like 27. Just saying.
Another that is something like XML or programming language so that you can become friends with the developers.
Correct.
And they will trust you so much more. I have the best teammates on the developing side because I understand these things. And sometimes I ask them questions, they go, how did you know that?
I think it's also important, if you can, to learn a single sourcing tool. So I like Badcat Flare. Maybe you could use like, I think you can use Adobe for single sourcing too. But single sourcing so that you can take one piece of information and use it like as a snippet or as a shared segment in different areas. I think that can save you a lot of time and errors if you learn a single sourcing tool.
It's a great bit of advice. If you are going to learn a hard language that can be intimidating, you want to start easier. Chantal and I did a whole project on Markdown. You can learn Markdown, trust me. Markdown's easy. That's enough to enter the whole docs as code space. So there's an article on it at Memo to Members, our chapter newsletter. Sorry, I had to do a little plug. Well, we've got our 1 minute left. So I think we'll do our last question. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all of them, but we have, what types of internships do you suggest since it's hard to find jobs called technical writing?
Yeah, that's a great point. You just look for things that maybe have to do with content or documentation, and don't be so fixated on the title. Try to look more into what the responsibilities are and look across different departments, because your documentation role, to Jessica's point, may be with a marketing team, it may be with an engineering group. Like there are lots of documentation needs.
Yeah, you might find it in training and education too. It could be in the education department. There's a lot of overlap between instructional design as well, technical editing.
Okay, we are at 8:30. So we have Let's Stay in Touch. Chantal, if you want to do a final shout out for FTC.
So to stay in touch with FTC, our email is ucf.ftc@gmail.com. We also have a Discord. Our link tree just has general links to our Discord, our LinkedIn. So that's a good general link. And then we also have our website. So any of those 4 ways, you can get in touch with us and go from there.
Okay. Chantal, And STC Florida chapter is stcflorida.org. You can message me at president@stcflorida.org. We're also on Facebook. And if you want to look up STC more broadly, it's just stc.org. You're also welcome to email me. I think I threw that in the chat. You can Google me. I'm the only Bethany Aguada out there, so I'm not hard to find, for better or for worse. So
And join our chapter, and we
Join.
are located in the.
oh yes, Alec wants to remind me, if you're renewing or joining STC, and you're going through the wonderful UI on the STC membership page, it's not alphabetized for our chapter. You are going to have to scroll down and look for Florida chapter where the O would be, because it's for Orlando. But we are the STC Florida chapter. We hope you'll join us. Thank you all so much. It was wonderful to have you here. Thank you again to our panelists. Round of applause for our talented panelists joining us near and far. Thank you all so much.